Hey homeschool friends, welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm going to do a update slash recap, and so this is going to look a little different than my normal monthly updates because I have been doing a lot of assessment and reflection on the first 12 weeks or the first term of our homeschool, and because of that I think I'm going to structure this video more in the what's been working and what hasn't necessarily been working sort of fashion. So let's chat about all the things that have been going on this past 12 weeks. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel if you're new here, or welcome back if you have been coming for a while. Like I said, we're going to do a kind of term one recap update. Not sure what I'm going to call this, but I'm just going to chat about what's been going on and how I feel like it's been going. Quick caveat, my kids are just in the other room outside of this door playing with Play-Doh, so they might be a little bit loud, so hopefully I can make this video work. So I'm going to kick this video off with goals. So I looked back on the goals I had set for my two big kids, mostly for what I want to see in them this homeschool year, and it helps me to look back on these goals, and they're really quite straightforward. My 8-year-old, he's almost 9. I put down that I really want him to love reading. So he really kind of took off last spring with his reading, but he's not totally comfortable with it. So I want to do everything I can to really instill a love of reading in him. I also want to work a lot on discussion. So narration, yes, but really being able to discuss and have fun conversations about what we're learning and reading, because I just feel like that's such a fun part of homeschool. And so to just really cultivate that in him, as well as lay a good foundation for composition and writing. So those are my goals. And in looking back at that, that helps me make decisions on the parts of our homeschool that aren't quite fitting. And I'll get to that in a second. But as for my daughter's goals, they're a little simpler. She is 7, and this year I'm dedicating to getting her to read, and she's doing so well. She has grown so much. She's really thriving with the Abeka program, so that's the big thing I have for her, as well as beginning to teach her how to do narration and have those discussions. She's a little more tentative with that, so those are her two big goals. And you guys, that is so key for this reflection and assessment, is to start with the goals. It has helped me so much. So let's go into maybe what's working first. That's a good place to start. So there are a number of things in our homeschool that are working really well. The first is our Sonlight HBL. So we're doing HBLB, so that's history, Bible, literature. History's been great. It's my son's favorite. It's the ancients. We're going through year 1 of 2 of world history for Sonlight, and it's been really fun. We have enjoyed all the Egyptian stuff. We've enjoyed the hands-on kit. I feel like my kids are really engaging with those cultures, and so that has been great. Bible's also been great. Our memory work has been going well, better than last year, as well as the book, which is Leading Little Ones to God, which is a title from an older HBL, but we are really liking it. So those things are great. Literature's amazing. We always love the Sonlight literature. I don't think there's one that we didn't like so far. We've read Charlotte's Web, Henry Huggins, and our first kind of missionary story, which was very spot on for their age and their maturity and things like that. So that was really a fun one. So I've just loved all the Sonlight lit. We also pick up extra read alouds for the evenings, and we have really liked some of those. We just finished The Golden Bull, which was all about ancient Mesopotamia. I loved it. It was so good. My kids really liked it. So literature's going amazing. So I would say that's big thumbs up for what's working. And then as for my big kids, so Saxon, our math program, is working great. I have no complaints. They are slowly, stepwise learning. They're getting lots of good practice. It has a good spiral approach to teaching math. So I love Saxon. No complaints. Same with Abeka phonics. So the Abeka phonics has been awesome. Like I said, my daughter's really excelling. It is really pushing her to a new level of confidence with her reading. She's picking up so much, and she's just progressing, and I love seeing it. I love seeing it. And my son is too, because he's still in the grade 2 program for Abeka, even though he's in 3rd grade, just because Abeka's kind of fast. And so they're still reviewing a lot of the phonics that he learned last year. So it's wonderful just to keep that in rotation, and we're just reading a lot. The times when they're reading out loud to me, either Sonlight readers or extra readers, we just have a number of things going on. And I have a lot of videos where I've talked about that. But those are all really good things. And then also for things that are working, I would put the Sonlight language arts on here, which is kind of a surprise because it was kind of a last minute decision when I was putting together my curriculum for language arts. I really like the idea of the Sonlight language arts, and so it's been working really well, and I think it has more to do with my mindset and how I go about using it. Like, we're really enjoying the copy work, and I feel like I'm able to facilitate that better this year. And then I'm really enjoying the creative expression, and the same reason why, because I am handling it better. I have become more of a team with my kids. I've been showing them how to write it. I've been editing with them. I've been like, how do you like the way this sounds? And we just kind of do it more as a team. And we have a lot more kind of one-on-one discussion about maybe what they want to write about, and helping them just really get excited and not feel that kind of fear of the like blank page, if you will. So I'm still typing a lot of it out for them. So I've really enjoyed the Sonlight Language Arts. And the last thing that's just been great is a lot of our independent work. And so for my big kids, that's like handwriting, typing, vocabulary with Wordly Wise, as well as logic. So those 4 subjects I have them do independently. They're at the right levels, they're growing. It's been great. So those things are all working great. So that's a lot of our homeschool that is working well. So I'm really thankful for that, and I'm glad that I was able to assess that and find confidence in the fact that, man, like most of our homeschool is going well. So to move to what's not going as well. And now, mind you, that does not mean I'm ditching all of these programs. I'm ditching one of them, and I'll explain that in just a second. But some things are just not exactly what I'm looking for, and I'm just not sure what to do yet. The first one being the Sonlight Science. Okay, guys, I have been talking about Sonlight Science on here and how much I love it, and I still do in so many ways. I love the experiments. I love how they link into the NSSE kind of guidelines, which have been revamped, and I just like the way they've been revamped. And so I love that Sonlight's following that. I love that the experiments really help teach the kids. What is not working is finding the time for our experiments. And so that is not necessarily a con on the program. That's more on me. And so I just need to do some assessment of our schedule, because that's been really discouraging for me, because I do like the experiments so much, but sometimes it's just so hard to fit them in. The other thing I'm not loving is the worksheets. We've just kind of dropped the worksheets, which I don't think is a big deal. I mean, prior to that, I was just working with them, and I would scribe and we'd all work together. So that is definitely what I recommend. I definitely don't hand them the Sonlight Science worksheets at all, but I felt like the worksheets were making science not very much fun. So we're trying to narrate a bit better, but it's hard to narrate most of this stuff. And so I'm not sure. I'm definitely sticking with it. I'm just feeling a bit discouraged with it. And so I just think I need to do a little bit of creative thinking. So that brings us to the next thing that's not working. And I'm so disappointed in this, you guys, because I just picked it up and I was so gung-ho, and I thought it was going to make all the difference in our homeschool. And oh my gosh, my son hates it. I guess not so much hates it as much as like bursts into tears and then feels terrible about himself. And so it's like self-confidence for spelling, it's mostly spelling, has just gone downhill since we started using this program. Even though like I'm working with him, we're trying to kind of look at the words and piece them apart and take kind of mental snapshots of them and learn spelling in that way. I just feel like what it is it's just overwhelming to him, this approach. And because it's just like, here's a line, copy it and try and learn the words via copying, which I think is still a really good idea. I still really like that natural approach to spelling as opposed to list form, which we've learned just does not work. We possibly might go back to all about spelling, not sure about that, but this just hasn't worked at all. It's been really bad. And I also picked up using Language Well, and they tie in with each other, which I made a whole flip through to try and explain the program, and I was so excited. Oh my gosh, I was so excited. And now I think we're just dropping both because they tie together, and I don't want to keep using Language Well if I'm not even going to use spelling anymore. So I'm dropping both of these. We're not using them. Guys, I literally unboxed this, I think, a month and a half ago, but that's part of homeschooling. That's just part of homeschooling. I don't like being a curriculum hopper, but I also don't like being so strict on holding firm to something that makes my child cry. I just don't feel like that's helpful either. And I have switched in the past to different things, and then when we find what works, it works. Like Saxon math works, Abeka phonics works for my kids, and we're sticking with that stuff. And so I just need to find what works in the spelling world for my oldest. I'm not quite sure where my daughter is yet because we're still working heavily on reading, and I'm not worried about spelling. But for my son, I need to find something that works. So what I'm going to try first, before going back to all about spelling, because I still think that could work for us, It's just so teacher intensive, and I have 4 young kids. Before I switch to all about spelling, I'm going to try spelling UC because it does have that natural approach. It uses copywork to teach the spelling. It is definitely more formulaic in the sense that it has you look for vowel chunks or consonant chunks and highlight them, and it makes you really look at the words, which we were doing in a more informal way. This just makes it more formal and part of the program, which I kind of like that structure. I'm not gonna lie, I like structure in my programs. So it's similar to what we were doing, just a little bit more structured. But what I'm gonna do within that, so I'm gonna try spelling UC, but I also do want to pull in spelling rules. It doesn't teach spelling rules, which is I think most people's biggest complaint about spelling UC. And so yeah, I think I'm going to try and pull in some spelling rules. I'm not sure where I'm going to pull them from, if it's going to be all about spelling, or Sonlight actually has like a 2-page document of all the different spelling rules. So I might just pull that out and laminate it and use it. I'm not sure. That's the part where I'm a little unsure still, but I'm gonna try spelling UC. Just gonna try it, see how it works, if it works better for him before going back to all about spelling, which is just a harder program for me to lift, but I will do it if that's what he needs. And so like I said, since spelling wisdom and using language well are so tied, I need to kind of figure out what I want to do for that grammar piece. So yes, Sonlight Language Arts has copywork application, which I like. I don't think it's enough for my kids. And I know in the Charlotte Mason world and even in the Sonlight world, people are like, well, this works better. Having it pulled from literature and the natural kind of learning works better for kids than just like drill and kill all these worksheets, which I can agree with and I can get behind. But the thing is, that's not how my son learns. It's like Saxon has a lot of that repetition, that spiral, and he is excelling under that type of a program. And so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pull back the Abeka language, because for the past couple months I've just been using Abeka phonics for him, the grade 2. We've just been pulling out the review and doing very little Abeka with him, but I think I'm going to pull back the rest of the grade 2 program, or at least the language aspect of that, and pull back in the worksheets, but I'm going to cut the work in half. Like I'm going to cross out every other problem because I don't think he needs to do quite that much work, but I like that it comes up on the daily and it is already spiraled for me. I don't have to think about what did we learn 4 weeks ago that I should probably bring back up when I talk about my copywork application for Sonlight. I just don't thrive in that, but I also don't want to drill and kill. So I think that's going to be my solution, is we are going to keep Abeka because I think they teach it well. It's not the most exciting by any means, but I think it's taught well enough, and as long as we don't overdo it, I think my son could excel under that. And then we could even use the copywork application from Sonlight as more of a review, or we could skip it altogether if it's something that has been thoroughly covered already in Abeka. So that's my plan for kind of that grammar, sentence structure sort of language arts for my son. So that kind of wraps up what's not working. Our Sonlight Science is a struggle. It's not that it's not working, I'm still using it, but we are switching spelling wisdom and using language well. We're switching to spelling UC and the Abeka language section of the language arts program. So those are the things that aren't working, though I do have something that's kind of an intermediate between working and not working, and that's what I'm going to go to next, which is more my twins. So my 4-year-olds who are going to be 5 in like 2 weeks. So they're pretty much 5-year-olds at this point. We have been using the Abeka K4 program for them. I feel like it's working to the extent that it can. And if I have learned anything through trying to teach 2 other kids to read, is that there's just a time when they're ready for it. But what I like about the Abeka program is it just keeps bringing it in front of them. It keeps allowing them to work with the stuff, and as long as me as the parent am not too worried about it, we'll just kind of keep practicing, keep going at their pace. If like blending is too hard, which it kind of is still at this point, we'll just camp out where we're at and learning the letters and practicing the games and all the things that we do just to do some exposure, some fun exposure. So I'm sticking with K4, but I'm using it a little bit more loosely. I'm trying to follow my kids' lead. I'm trying not to make reading or learning how to read not fun. Really, that's what it is. I feel like the K4 program could result in kids hating reading, and I want to avoid that. But I also think it has some really good tools and techniques to teach it when they're ready. So I'm not ditching it because I think it's really good, but I'm not using it fully because I think it could kill their love of reading. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody else, but that's where I'm at with our K4 program. It's kind of in between loving it and ditching it. So that's where we're at there. But all in all, through all this assessment and reflection, I have come to a really good spot with our homeschool, because recently, over this past number of months, I've been so inspired by Charlotte Mason, and I still am. But what has filtered out are the things that I feel like I'm most drawn to. That being copy work, narration, and big discussions. And those things I am still doing. So I'm not following exactly how Charlotte Mason would teach spelling or grammar or anything like that. But her ideas influence me as to how I take the curriculum I am using and try to make it a little gentler and not so traditional in so many ways. And so I feel really good about that. I feel like I've grown a lot. I feel like we're in a good spot. I feel like those individual goals I have for my kids really help me look at my curriculum in a good light at this 12-week mark, so that I can make sure that I'm sticking to that and I don't have to hit the end of the year before I assess and reflect. So how are you guys doing? How far are you in your homeschool? I know we started a little bit early, so we're already into term 2, but do you guys reflect and assess how things are going in order to change things for the upcoming months and the rest of your homeschool? Do you guys do that? I have found it to be very helpful. So anyway, that is what I have for this video. I hope it was helpful. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel if you want to. All right, guys, I will see you in the next homeschool video. Okay, take care.